My name is Ashton. Not so long ago, I found out that I've been on the wanted list for many years. I came across the ad by accident, but I'm 100% sure that it's me, because in that photo on the internet, you can see a small zebra in the hands of a child, exactly the same toy I have now. The ad also stated that my parents were looking for me, but the question immediately arises, then who are these people that call themselves my mum and dad? Why did they hide this fact? Do you want to know how I even found out about the missing person? And how did I get into a family that called me my own? Let me explain. The day before, I woke up in a good mood because there was going to be an interesting lesson at school. Our teacher decided to invite her old and very good friend to our class so that he could teach us a couple of professional life hacks for extracting some data about people. Why do we need this? Well, our teacher always said that in life, no lesson will not hurt. That is why she also often came up with something new and interesting for us, such as how to tie strong knots, how to open door locks, with the help of improvised tools, of course. All of these lessons were designed for self-defense and self-care. At breakfast, Dad asked me about the lesson. I hear you're having a special day today. Detective Palmer is coming to see us. He promised to show us all sorts of interesting things and teach us. No, he's just coming to tell you about something to do with a database, what it is and all that. And what is it for school children? To expand your horizons. Just a detective, a good friend of our teacher, and they decided to hold an informal lesson. And then we'll write an essay about who found what on the internet. That wasn't the case in my day, and mine too. The teacher believes that in the modern world, children should learn the gifts of evolution. Better take some time with your mum's breakfast gifts, or you'll get your shirt dirty. Okay, Dad, I'm late. Bye, Mum. As soon as I got to class, our teacher and her friend, Detective Palmer, came to pick me up. As the teacher said, according to the plan, he will have us tell about some simple ways to search information on the internet, to look through open resources. We all listened with interest to the detective's lecture and asked questions. Then I asked him, Ash, so if we write our name on the internet, can we find something about ourselves? Well, or something that may have something to do with you. Sometimes we find things we're not ready for. And just this will be your homework. Look for something on the internet and we'll write an essay about it. Okay, lesson's over. After class, we went outside with my friend Michael and Zach and immediately started talking about the lesson. Still very much under the impression. Do you think we'll find anything of worth using resources the detective gave us? My life is too boring for my name to be in the database. You don't have to only look for yourself. Wouldn't you like to find something interesting about, say, Nancy Filler? That nerd. I knew you liked her. What? No, I'm just... Ash, you're a witness. Zach confessed his feelings. Zach, invite her to the prom. What if you get married? But graduation is in a few years. Maybe she'll be prettier by then. Or you... Shut up. We laughed. Then I came home and immediately sat down at the computer. When I opened the sites that Palmer was talking about, I didn't immediately understand what the joke was, because every time I entered my name, the site gave me the data of Nancy Filler. I also thought, how much is it here? What is all this nonsense? I've typed in my name again and again, but the screen showed a picture of Nancy and a document. I read it after 4 attempts. It indicated her place of birth, the names and surnames of her parents. It took me a while to notice, and I wasn't until later sure that it didn't say Filler, but Barry. Then, all of a sudden, I wondered, why are her parents named Mark and Barbara Barry? I just immediately grabbed the phone and called Zach. He said her parents' names were Mrs. Lila and Frederick Filler. I hung up the phone and continued to look about the document. I began to read the fine print. My eyes widened even more. Then I abruptly grabbed the phone and called the detective at work. I asked why typing my name on the internet. I was given a document of my classmate, and even under a different name. Then the detective said that the site works without error. Maybe she has something to do with you. If in doubt, look not for yourself, but more about her, he advised. So I did so. I don't remember exactly how long it took, but I was sitting at the computer, not looking up. I started typing in the names of her current parents, with whom she lives now, and found out that she's an adopted child. No one knows about this. Does she? But I still couldn't understand the connection between her and me. And then a terrible thought occurred to me. I ran to my mother's room and began to rummage through the documents. My mother did not understand what was happening. She tried to stop me, but I found what I needed, and then I ran to my room. Son, what are you looking for, and why do you need these documents? Mum, where was I born? Why would you... Mum, just say it. In California, you know, here, everything is in the documents. I looked at the birth certificate and then sighed, gave the documents to my mother and said, I'm sorry. My mother left the room and went to her room, so I laid down on the bed and stared at the ceiling and grabbed a zebra toy. For the first time, I took a good look at her. She had words, Ashton, Barry, Pennsylvania. My skin crawled and I jumped out of bed and ran to the computer, dialed Ashton, Barry, Pennsylvania. Immediately, the screen flashed a photo of me as a small child holding a zebra toy next to the document, missing. I looked at the toy again and started breathing very heavily. I thought, no way. And then I continued to search for information, but under a different last name. I found out that my real name is Ashton Barry, and Nancy Filler, that is, Barry, my sister. That's why the service didn't find any data about me, but somehow found out about our relationship. At that moment, my world collapsed. There were a lot of questions. My head was in a mess, and my pulse was beating at the speed of light. I started to cry. My mother came into the room, and I shouted at her, said that they lied to me, that I had a sister and my real parents were looking for me. I ran away from home. I didn't want to see them. My mother tried to stop me, but I didn't listen to her. On sort of automatic, I ran along the road. My feet took me to Nancy Filler's house. What do you want? You're my sister. I know everything. You're Nancy Barry, right? Did you know that? Here's the proof. Did you come at this hour to tell me about it? Well, yes. Aren't you surprised that we're related? I've always known about it, and I've thought about it, and you know it. From where? I have foster parents, and you don't even say hello to me. You're the one that doesn't say hello to me. I thought you were just ashamed of me. I also have foster parents, and we should be grateful that they did not leave us to die on the street after the death of our parents. Death? They were looking for me, so they were alive. They were, but not anymore. They died in a car crash. This is the feeling you get when only you find someone, but even before you realise it, you're already losing them. This feeling is simply unthinkably painful. Nancy told me everything. It turns out my parents lost me once. I was playing on the playground, and then I got lost. My mother made the announcements in a panic for 30 minutes, and then the police found me. I was standing at the ice cream van. It's all still in the database. After a couple of years, my parents died, and we were adopted by 2 different families. The most amazing thing is that I don't remember anything, but Nancy says that I have a childhood trauma, and my brain decided to cross it all out so it wouldn't hurt. Nancy showed me our parents' grave, and now we're more in touch. I apologised to my parents, and now I'm seriously thinking about helping to find missing children in the future and return them to their families. I think it's a really good idea. What do you say? Also, guys, did you like my story? Write your opinion about it in the comments below the video, and do not forget to put the likes, share the video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel.
Hello everyone, my name is Esther. I have a few questions for you. Who is your idol? Who are you proud of? For many of us, of course, the idols are our parents. So were mine. Until I found out a terrible secret about them. I still can't believe they would do such a thing. I was always proud of my parents. It would seem that I had never met such worthy, wise people. I saw in them a constant kindness, and I wanted to be the same. I always tried to do my best at school, behave properly, copy my dad's manners, and think like my mom. I wanted to become the same as my parents in the future, but sometimes we make mistakes. We only see the surface. The more I learned about them, the more I lost respect for them. I was in the 8th grade. As a class, we decided to collect things for the children who had been abandoned by their parents in orphanages. I was taught from childhood to be kind, and I without doubt bought a lot of new things and collected all my childhood toys and books. We decided to not go to an ordinary orphanage, but to the children with disabilities. Over dinner, I told my parents that I was going to the orphanage tomorrow. I've always felt sorry for orphan children, not exactly disabled ones. I believe that childhood is a period when the personality is laid, the worldview is formed, vitality, purposefulness. These qualities do not develop spontaneously, but are formed with full-fledged parental love. I believe that these children not only suffered psychological and physical trauma at birth, but they also have to survive and cope alone. We never discussed this with our parents, and I shared the news with them over dinner. I remember that my father got up and went to his room, and my mother's eyes started to water. I never understood what happened then. The next morning, I decided to apologize and said that I was proud of my parents and I was sure that they would never do that. We went with the class to an orphanage. I was glad that I had good-natured classmates. We collected a lot of toys, food, and clothing. We planned to stay until the evening because we had prepared a performance for them. First, the children greeted us, prepared dances, songs, scenes of famous fairy tales. It was very fun. They are so talented. Then we showed our performance, and then there was interaction. No one was bored. The final conclusion was their performances with life stories. Everyone had their own story. One was left by their parents in their home, the other after 3 years of trying to overcome a disease. The other's parents took away their parental rights, and there were a lot of such stories. Every story made me cry. These life stories affected me very much, and different feelings arose. Feelings of guilt, ingratitude, and resentment. The last speaker was a girl who reminded me very much of my mother in childhood, which I saw in a photo. I don't know why, but at that moment I was very affected by her appearance, and the story made me ask her questions. Her name is Sarah, older than me by 4 years. She was predicted to have cerebral palsy. She was injured during childbirth. I do not know whose fault it was, but at that moment for me, it was her parents who just left her to fend for herself. According to the story, her parents did not immediately abandon her. They left her to her grandmother, but her grandmother died and, at the age of 3, she had to be sent to an orphanage. She remembers them. They visited at first. She told me how she and her grandmother loved each other, remembered her love and warmth, but from others, she never felt anything, unless it caused a feeling of constant pity. In the end, she said that she hopes and believes that her parents will come for her. Maybe they are having difficulties now, and she understands everything. Her grandmother gave her a picture of her parents before she died, and she keeps it by her heart. I really wanted to see it, and even more, I wanted to talk to her, as if I had found a soulmate in her. But the time had come to distribute the collected things and go home, and so I didn't have time. I arrived home very depressed, without mood. My soul was empty. I didn't sleep all night. The stories of all the orphans' lives affected me very much. I especially couldn't forget this girl, who was left by her parents after her grandmother's death. After waiting for dawn, I ran back to the orphanage. I needed to talk to her, to calm down. I wanted to be her friend and help her in any way I could. When I arrived, they had finished breakfast. The teachers recognized me and gave me a chance to talk to her alone. I don't know how many hours we talked. The words didn't end, and I saw myself in her more and more, and she recognized herself in me. It was as if we had known each other since birth. We started telling our secrets, and there was complete trust. I told her about my parents and how proud I was of them. After that, I asked to see a picture of her parents, because she said it was the only thing that remained of them. She kept the photo in her diary, where she wrote letters to her parents every day. I was shocked by what I saw, because they were my parents. My hands started to shake, and the photo was on the floor in a split second. Now images of my grandmother taking care of her played through my mind, and I began to understand why my parents had reacted so strangely, why she had affected me. I was too shocked to say a single word. I went home in silence and in a terrible state. I hoped that my parents would calm me down and say that there was a misunderstanding, that she's not my sister, and the picture isn't of my parents. On the way home, I wrote that we were going to have a serious conversation and asked them to get ready. Mom was home, and Dad had to leave work early. I remember that day very well, the tension in the room. Unfortunately, as much as I don't want to think bad things about my parents, Sarah was my own sister. My mother did not manage to share much with me, but my father told me how hard it was for them to accept such a burden. They were afraid, and are still afraid. I found out that they often visited the orphanage where Sarah is located and sponsored, but Sarah didn't know about it. My parents would have told me sooner or later, because you can't hide a secret like that. I admitted that I was disappointed in them, felt lonely, and in my heart doubted their love. I got depressed and didn't talk to them for a week. I was looking for a solution. I had 2 conditions. Either I go to an orphanage until I come of age, or Sarah will live with us and we will give her a full life. One day, my parents called me and offered to pick up Sarah themselves, and we had a long conversation. They repented, saying that this was the biggest mistake that they had made in their lives. Since then, Sarah and I are the closest sisters. I love her with all my heart. My parents and Sarah also quickly found a common language. I am glad that my parents corrected their mistake, because the child is not to blame for anything.